I'll tell you exactly what I think about that. I mean, that's what you get when you have somebody's parents screwing their own livestock. You get retardation. That's my take on that.
Yeah. Now, Clemson has a good defensive line, and look, we're not going to dominate Clemson's defensive line the entire game. They're going to make some plays. Todd Gurley is not going to rush for 7, 8, 9 yards a carry every single time he touches the ball. They're going to have some tackles for loss. They're going to have a sack or two. They're going to have some QB hurries, QB pressures. But to say that their line is going to dominate Georgia's offensive line for the entire game is just not true. And they love to point to the second half of last year's Clemson game,
the third quarter,
where they claim that they shut down Georgia's offense. Well, I mean, you can go back and look at the stats. I'm not going to rattle them off, but Todd Gurley ran all over them. He averaged 7, 8 yards a carry. We got behind, had to throw the ball a little. Gurley was hurt in that game. He was cramping up, had some leg issues. I mean, they're not going to dominate. They're not going to dominate the offensive line. The thing about a Todd Gurley is he can have a 1-yard gain, a 2-yard gain, a 1-yard loss, a no gain, and then boom, 28 yards down the sideline. I mean, you can't stop him. I mean, to say you're going to dominate on the line of scrimmage, it's just not true. It's not going to happen. And as far as these Clemson video makers go, I won't mention any names. You can figure it out on your own. One of them's a convict, and the other one, you can't believe anything he says, and he's proven that.
Yeah, we're talking about the bet watcher.
Yeah. So, one of them's on parole, and the other one is hiding from Oklahoma fans. So, I don't put too much weight into anything either one of those people say.
No, I mean they're on there just running their mouth. I mean especially like I said, we're not going to mention any names, Brazzy, but he really doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. I mean, he says literally the same thing in all his videos. What's funny too? And this goes along with the other parole. We're talking about the I ain't gonna mention his name, but the parolee. They just talk about their defense. I don't think I've heard anything about their offense, and there's a good reason for that, because they're gonna fucking suck.
Yeah. Yeah. Even Clemson fans haven't heard anything about the Clemson offense. That's how unknown the Clemson offense is. Even Clemson fans don't know what the Clemson offense is. That's why they don't talk about it.
Exactly. And then they keep saying that these unknown proven receivers that they're going to throw at us is going to come and scare us, and Cole Styles going to be this and that. And I'm just like, Cole Styles hasn't started at all. He has no experience. Come at Athens and beat us on his first start. Give me a break, man.
Yeah, see, we touched on that earlier. I mean, you're asking somebody who's never started before to go on the road into a hostile environment, and you seriously think he's going to come in there and have the game of his life on his first start? I mean, it's the first game of the season as well. It's like you want to talk about butterflies. I mean, anybody that thinks he's not going to be nervous, I mean, they're smoking something. There's too many variables here to sit there and say that the Clemson offense is just going to come in and dominate us. That's just stupid.
Exactly. It's just, I don't understand these Clemson fans.
What do you expect? I mean, we're talking about a group of guys that like running around in purple. I mean, I'm sorry, I cannot fear a team that runs around dressed in purple. I can't do it.
Exactly. But what else I want to talk about? And then Auburn fans, like I was watching the Paul Farmer show the other day, and these Auburn fans keep thinking that Nick Marshall is not the same person that left Georgia, when he's still getting in trouble for the same thing. It's why Georgia kicked him off the team. And
this was my point. We talked about this last week when we talked about UGA suspensions. There are no NCAA guidelines that tell a school or an athletic department or a head coach how to discipline a player based on A, B, or C. In other words, in the NFL, if you're caught using weed, you go on the testing program. If you're caught again, it's a 1-game suspension. Or if you're caught again, it's a 4-game suspension, whatever it is. All that stuff is spelled out in the rule book. In the NCAA, that doesn't exist. So it's up to each individual school how they choose to punish or not punish these players who are accused or convicted or whatever of these, minor crimes. So, yeah, Georgia's had its fair share of trouble with, people smoking weed and things like this, and then they go to other schools, and they say, well, they're not having the problem at the other school, it must be something at Georgia. Well, it's not that they're not having the problem at the other school, it's that the other school doesn't have to punish or suspend players for these types of behaviors. The NCAA is not the one suspending these people. It's Mark Richt and, McGarity and the athletic department that's laying these rules down. So if other programs want to let Nick Marshall or whoever else run around and smoke weed and slap women around and these types of things, that's up to them.
Well, let's not forget. I mean, you got your coaches that'll, let murderers play play on your team as well.
Right. Exactly. So, you have to keep those things in mind. I mean, Mark Richt, I think, has handled, this stuff as fair as he can. And another thing you have to remember, too, is these kids that get kicked off the team, it's not for one thing. You don't...
I totally agree. Hey, Magnum, I think we lost him.
This is my last question. I got I talked about the preseason polls last year, and Georgia went number 12. And I agree with y'all totally. How South Carolina getting a first place vote? Like, I find that very comical. Like, it's unbelievable.
It's got to be Steve Spurrier. That was the coaches' poll, and it's got to be Steve Spurrier voting them. The only other, I was thinking about this after we discussed it last week, and the only other possibility I could come up with was that Will Muschamp voted South Carolina number 1, thinking maybe Will Muschamp's an SEC homer, he's an SEC coach, he's in the SEC East, so he just decided that he was going to pick who he thought was the best team in the East and give them a first-place vote. And so he gave it to South Carolina. Because I can't think of anybody else. It either had to be Steve Spurrier or Muschamp. Those are my only two guesses.
And what gets me is just I think we touched on this as well. South Carolina, they lost a lot on defense. I mean, they lost 3 out of 4 starters on the defensive line. And, and I've talked to some South Carolina fans, and they seriously think they're not going to have a drop-off. Now, forget the fact that they lost a good bit of people in the secondary and 3 out of 4 on the defensive line. Even if they just lost Jadeveon Clowney, you do not replace that overnight. There is going to be an obvious drop-off. And anybody that thinks otherwise, including South Carolina fans, I think you need to be committed, because if you think that you can just replace somebody like Jadeveon Clowney along with what else you lost,
right,
you're out of your mind.
Here's my question for Carolina fans. You've just had your best 4-year run in school history. During that 4-year period, you won 0 conference championships. But still, you got to give Carolina credit. They have had their best 4-year run in school history. Now, during that 4-year period, they had either Marcus Lattimore or Jadeveon Clowney, each of those 4 years. Where's their Jadeveon Clowney at this year? Where's their Marcus Lattimore this year? They don't have it. They don't have that stud. They don't have a first-rounder on offense or defense. They don't have that all-American, everybody's going to dominate. They don't have that this year. So, like you said, Magnum, you can't tell me that there's not going to be some kind of a drop-off. I mean, you combine that with the fact that they have a new quarterback, and they lost everything that they lost, I don't see how they're going to repeat what they've done the last couple of years. Now, they may have, 8, 9, 10 wins. I mean, they're going to whip Clemson like they always do. Tennessee's a win. They'll probably beat Florida again this year, but there's going to be a drop-off.
Oh, all right. What I wanted to say real quick is you were talking about there's no kind of discipline in the NCAA. That was good for me because I'm an NFL fan. I'm a Jaguars fan, and
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. We got it. But
I'm actually shocked you would admit that.
Hey, I've been one since 1995, so.
Hey, well, Ray, you kind of gave me a little trouble earlier, so I got to come back with something.
I gotcha. Hey, we got the biggest scoreboards ever. But here's the thing. I always wondered why it took till the draft, for people to see why, college players had issues. And now I understand because they don't discipline them like that.
No, you got a lot of college coaches that all they care about is winning. I mean, granted, I know Mark Richt wants to win a national title, but at the same time, he's not going to let his players do whatever he wants. He's not Urban Meyer. He's not going to let somebody walk around killing people, and still play. That Mark Richt ain't going to do that. Mark Richt, he doesn't hide anything, and, if he's going to kick somebody off the team, I mean, he's not afraid to put it out there, and a lot of people like to talk trash about Georgia, but I think people need to respect the fact that Mark Richt is doing what he's doing. He's not allowing anybody, whoever it may be. I mean, remember several years ago, A.J. Green, was in trouble for, selling a jersey or something like that, and he was suspended 4 games. I mean, Mark Richt, he doesn't care who you are. You do something, he's going to punish you. He's going to give you a second chance, but if you keep on, he's going to kick you off the team, and a lot of coaches are not going to do that.
Well, thanks for the call. Love your show. Keep the good work up.
All right, buddy.
Yeah, man.
Make some more videos. Make some more videos, Reamer.
My videos. I can't wait to make my hate week with Clemson.
Yes. All right, buddy.
All right, bye. Thank you.
Take it easy, dude.
Yeah, he made a good video on Duke Johnson versus Todd Gurley. Did you see that one, Magnum?
Yeah, I did watch that one. Yeah, and I agree with him.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what he said it was common knowledge, but at the same time, you've got those that think otherwise. So I mean, it was his opinion, and I agree with his opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, when you
that was a good call.
When you got now, let's not use Duke Johnson here. Let's use somebody else. Let's look at Todd Gurley and even Melvin Gordon. Okay, from Wisconsin. Okay, so let's look at who Melvin Gordon plays now. For that conference, I mean, we're not going to sit here and say it's an elite conference, but for that conference, Ohio State and Michigan State. Now he does go up against. Michigan State is a very good defense. They have no offense, but a very good defense. So he, sometimes does go up against those defenses that can cause problems to some of these schools from other conferences. And, and he still he puts up numbers. I would put him actually right up there alongside of Duke Johnson. Maybe, I mean, I guess it's a matter of opinion, but I would put him right at, the same level and maybe Melvin Gordon a little higher because I think he plays the better defenses. See, when I compare players, I look at, okay, what defenses do they play? Forget, everybody else. It's like, okay, what defenses do they play? To me, that's what you go off of. If you see that this player struggles, whenever he plays, let's say, a top 10 defense, if that player struggles consistently when he plays a top 10 defense, he's not that good. But when he plays teams, let's say, that are ranked 50th and 60th, and he runs all over the field, well, okay, that's expected. But if he can't do anything against the top-notch defenses, well, then he's really not that good. Don't you agree?
Well, yeah, and there's a reason that year after year the SEC has twice as many players drafted as the next closest conference. I mean, the NFL is not stupid. I mean, look at the money involved in the NFL. People make a lot of money to tell other people who to draft and when to draft them. So don't take Magnum and Uncle Lou's word for it. Take the NFL's word for it. The SEC is loaded with NFL talent, period.
Yeah, and I think I read something a while back. As far as the teams in the SEC that has the most players in the NFL right now, if I remember correctly, it was LSU, I think, had 42 and Georgia 41 or something like that. I think it was Georgia and LSU are really close as far as having the same amount of NFL talent that's in the league. And something else to brag on too. I mean, a lot of people, we touched on it earlier, think Georgia has never put anything out. Well, Georgia is the only school to have 3 Super Bowl